So the truth is that you're tired of America. That's why you're watching this video. You're pretty much sick of it. You want to be somewhere else, somewhere free, like this, where the birds are chirping, where there's nature, where you don't have to worry about all the weird things this administration is doing. But maybe fear is holding you back. You've never done something like this. Your family, your friends, they're like, girl, brother, you crazy. I don't know why you would do that, but I'm here to tell you. My name is Tiffany. I've been outside of America for 6 years, traveling across East and Southern Africa. And what I can tell you about the experience is that it's blissful, truly incredible. I mean, look at this view. But moving abroad isn't just about the views, is it? It's about freedom, better health care, lower cost of living, living in your true self. And by the way, if you're like, girl, you sound tired, I will be 8 months pregnant next week. In fact, this will be our third child that we have given birth to abroad, which sounds insane because when we first started this journey in 2020, back when we lived in Ohio, we had no idea that we would have all of these children while abroad. Back then we only had 3 children. Now we're about to have 6, and things can change so much when you trust what the Most High is telling you to do. You know, I saw a video. You may have seen it as well. It was a sister. She was maybe in her 50s-ish, maybe closer to 60. But she had left America for Thailand, and she was talking about how sick she was in the States. She was an executive in corporate America, the way a lot of us are. And she had just been at her wit's end doing her 40 to 50 hours per week. But her stress levels, her lab results, her everything was just falling apart. And so she asked the doctor, and she was like, hey, can I get on some kind of disability? And he said, no, we don't do disability anymore. It was really recent. He said, we don't do it anymore. They're not even issuing it because people have taken advantage of the system. And so she felt stuck, and she was thinking, man, I didn't take advantage of the system, but she had to pay for what other peoples are doing in America that take advantage of the system, so Americans can't really have access to those benefits when they need them. So she says she decided to just sell everything and move to Thailand, and her life has been much better. And it reminded me of when my mom came to Tanzania, because my mom had high blood pressure at the time. But once she arrived in Tanzania outside of America, she would drink hibiscus tea. They would have fresh hibiscus tea in the markets, and her blood pressure would immediately just go down without those blood pressure medications that inhibit your heart and cause other issues in your body. So I'm saying all of this to say that living abroad quite literally can save your life, quite literally can elongate your life and give you more peace and stability. Our mornings here are pretty relaxed. My husband makes breakfast because your girl's 8 months pregnant. Our children wake up when they wake up, as long as it's before 9 a.m. They do homeschool using Khan Academy K-12. Then they also play with their kittens. They play in the yard. They look around at everything that's around them. They swim every single day because they live in a house that has a pool, and have been for 2 years now, almost 3 years since we've lived in Mauritius. Mauritius is one of those places that just gives you that luxury that you need, that luxury that you didn't know you need at an affordable rate. And after 6 years continuously living abroad, when I say continuously, I mean truly, we do not go back to America, okay? That's just not what we want to do. That's not something that we find any value in our lives. We don't find value in being in America, whether it would be Ohio, Florida, Tennessee, Maine, New Jersey, or anywhere. We just don't find value in living there, especially as a growing family, you know? I also recently came across this news article. I forget the man's name. I think it was Dijon or something like that. You may have heard about it. They, you know, unalived this brother, unalived him the way they do a lot of brothers, had dogs eating at his neck as he was passing away, and his mom was crying. And I showed it to my youngest son, because my oldest son and I have had this conversation lots of times while being in America and being outside of America. But my youngest son, we haven't had these conversations yet. And I showed him, this is why we don't live in America. This is why you don't live in America, especially as young Black men. They're basically every other country in the world, maybe the exceptions being a Brazil, maybe somewhere like Germany. Those are probably the only real exceptions on earth that you won't see black men being just hounded down in the streets like that. It's very traumatizing, and American people just have a way of just pretending it's not happening, both black, white, and everything in between. Everybody walks around in America like nothing is happening. It literally drives me insane, which is why I do not live there. It's the craziest thing to me. You see someone get hounded down, unalived in the streets by the police, and you're like, everything's fine. Oh well. This mother, she's crying in her car. They unalived my baby. They let the dogs eat his brain out. They did this, they did that. And it was just so sad. But it reminded me why I would never, ever go back. Never raise my sons there, never raise my daughters. See, the thing is, daughters can kind of get away with living in America. It's a little bit easier for women, I must admit. It's a little bit easier, especially if you're saying you're in your right mind, you know. But brothers, they don't really get that grace, that mercy, that they don't get that, okay, just let them pass. Just, it's fine, just let them go. Brothers, on the other hand, whether they're in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Minnesota, they hunt them down. And another thing I've been hearing about lynchings that are still happening. People say, oh, they committed suicide. They did not do that. And so if you are someone that sees these things, typically moving abroad works best for people that do not lie to themselves. People that really have an inner truth, people that understand the climate that they're living in, people that are strong enough and empathetic enough to understand what American society truly is, who it's harming and how it harms them in different ways, from outright violence to microaggressions to slow progressive death through the healthcare system. These people know in their heart, deep in their heart, that they can never live in that country. Not only that, but they also understand it's falling, because with all of this also comes the Epstein files being released. But here in Mauritius, I don't have to worry about all of those crazy things that America has going on. The thing I'm most worried about right now is honestly what I'm looking at, how to get these avocados down from this tree, like literally. I'm gonna show you. We have avocados growing on this tree. I don't know how we're supposed to get them down because it's actually a very tall tree. That's the extent of things that I super worry about. Like how am I supposed to get these down? I gotta attach 2 brooms and then hit the brooms together, or my husband or one of my sons has to. How are we gonna get these avocados down? I have problems that are not American first world problems. Problems that really aren't that much of a problem, although they can be difficult to solve. Like, how the heck do I get these avocados down? Because it's not avocado season, but I really want these avocados that are growing in our gardens. This is also to show you, me showing you the avocado tree and the surrounding area, how fruitful life is outside of America. Because when you're living on an island, this is something that I've learned since living on an island. Now, I've traveled to the Bahamas, taken cruises with my children, all those fun things, but I've never lived on an island the way that I live on an island right now. I've lived in Tanzania. I've traveled to Zambia, traveled to Kenya, traveled to Turkey. But islands are so daggone fertile, like more fertile than regular continents. They just have so much abundance. Part of it's also the volcanic ash. This island was created from a volcano that erupted thousands and thousands and millions and however many years ago. And so that volcanic ash actually replentifies the dirt, and the dirt is super plentiful with herbs and fruits and coconuts and bananas and papaya. Those are just some of the plants that I see when I walk out of our yard and we go up the road here. That's like a little small road. And that could be the life that you're living to. It doesn't have to be here. It could be in Jamaica. It could be in Curacao. It could be in Thailand. I don't know if Thailand has nature and agriculture like that. It could be in Seychelles. It could be in Madagascar. It could be anywhere. It could be in Sri Lanka. They just launched a new digital nomad visa. But there are so many new opportunities out there for Americans that want out. for Canadians who want out, from Westerners who want out of the West and see that is decaying. And you know, when we left in 2020, we knew that America would crumble and fall. We knew that. I've known that since a very young age. At the age of 18, once I started reading the Bible, I started to understand, oh, this is not good. Judgment's clearly going to come to this land, because I don't lie to myself and pretend nothing's happening in America the way that a lot of people do, which is why we now have the world looking at America and the UK and Israel with these Epstein files. Literally, the Prince Andrew is not a prince anymore. I believe that man is under arrest for his role in his weird pictures, and just, I don't even want to, like, the image is just stuck. You know, when you go online, you see this stuff, the image is just stuck. Those are things that, you know, you understand why you have to see it. The scriptures say mourn with those who mourn, but at the same time, it's like you don't even want to, like, know things like that are that degenerate and perverse. Okay, and so the veil is being lifted, the curtain is being pulled back, not just on America, but the United Kingdom as well. And more is going to come out. People are going to see more names, more faces, more weird things. And I think it will drive a lot of people, a lot of Americans, a lot of Canadians, and a lot of United Kingdomians to just exodus out of these places, because you can only hold on to that lie for so long. Lies, you can only hold on to internal lies like that for so long. I was reading, I think it was a book I was reading, and it was like the best way to stay alive a long time is to be truthful to yourself inside yourself. So to not live that in a way that is disordinate to your values, to not live in a way that is the exact opposite of what you value, to not be a hypocrite, basically. And it's just like Americans are really, you know, we say, oh, look at Somalia, look at this place, look at that place, look at what they're doing in Afghanistan, look at what they do in Venezuela. And now the tables have turned, and it's like, look what they do in America. That for you as an American woman, man, somebody that has children, somebody that cares about people outside themselves, should make you uncomfortable. Should make you have a second thought. Should make you at least say, okay, let me go down and see what Mexico's about. Let me go down and see what Paraguay's about. Let me go down and see what Curacao is about. Let me go down and see what Aruba, something outside of the States. Preferably, my preference is very far away from the States. Very as far away as I can get humanly. I think I may be literally, quite literally, on the opposite side of the globe from America, quite literally, because we are pretty down south here on this island. If you were to actually look at Mauritius on a map, it's pretty low down there, okay? It's pretty far. And I'm so glad that we did that. Looking back 6 years ago, I feel like we've made the perfect decisions. I feel like better decisions almost couldn't have been made, because we got out on time. Here's the thing about our family being young and being able to hear very closely from Yah. When we hear a message from Yah, we just act on it quickly. We just do it. There isn't a lot of time for delay. There isn't a lot of time for, let's just make sure 50 times that we heard that properly. No, that's unnecessary. That's confusion. That's just walking in just doubt and confusion. When you hear a message that the Most High gives you, and the Creator pulls you and tells you, go in this direction, I'm going to lead you in a place that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to increase you there, and then I'm going to show you what to do from there. Just listen, just do it. It's called obedience. And that's why the scriptures say obedience is better than sacrifice. So many people end up leaving for different reasons, whether they're in Africa or Asia or wherever, and then so many end up staying, because I'm surrounded also by people who have been outside of America for 18 years. You know, people, they chime in on our videos because these videos reach worldwide, from the Philippines to Dubai to Norway, surprisingly, to Brazil, to Argentina, literally like every country gets a lot of these videos. And so people will chime in, they're like, I've been abroad for 16 years, I love it, I'm in the Philippines, I've been abroad for this much time, I'm in Ghana, I've been abroad for this much time. And it's said to me such a beautiful testimony and reflection of the Most High's promise, whether people understand it or not. A reflection of him showing, yes, I said I would bring you out, and I haven't only done it for you, I've done it for other people too. You actually weren't in the first category of people to do it. I've done it over and over again throughout time. And that's a great testimony, because now you're trusting in something that's older than you, that has happened many more times than you've been alive. And so you can rest assured that your footsteps are covered, protected, guided delicately by your Creator. Gosh, it's so beautiful out here. I really wish you could see this view. Ever since leaving America, the views we've had on the houses that we have been in and lived in are just like amazing. Over here, I can't see the mountains, okay, but a lot of views over here will let you see the mountains. But another thing I want to talk about is the fact that we've seen so many retirees come out of America and make it long-term here in Mauritius, because there's a 10-year retiree permit, there's a 10-year self-employed entrepreneur permit, there's a digital nomad permit that you can just fill out online and keep renewing until they tell you to switch over. Some of the easiest residencies, probably the easiest residence I've seen in my life, besides like what Spain does with their digital nomad permit, maybe what Portugal does with theirs, maybe what Sri Lanka's looking like they're about to do with theirs. But I mean, the doors are opening up for Americans who are sick of America, who are sick of the food in America, sick of the cost of living, sick of the healthcare, sick of just going down the street and seeing people that are quite literally insane. Because if we're in reality, we all know that a lot of Americans are just, I was reading this statistic, a lot of Americans, I think it said something like 75% of Americans are on some type of medication. It doesn't have to be mental health, but just any type of medication. And this is what brings me back to some of the retirees we've seen out here that come out and they're like, thank you so much for sharing your journey. We just got a 10-year residence permit. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. We just got a 10-year retirement permit. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. We love to go here on the island. We love to go here. We actually met a lady at the mall the other day, and she was like, yeah, I love taking the bus from Port Louis, which is the capital, to a mall that we were at called La Croisette. She was like, I love taking the bus everywhere. It's so beautiful here. It's like an adventure. And it reminded me the importance of doing what you have been called to do. Because when we originally came to Mauritius, there weren't really any Americans here, or at least not that we could really see. Maybe like one that we saw on YouTube. Didn't really meet them. You don't run into Americans a lot out here, but now a couple Americans who are wise know about this area, and they're getting their retirement, their self-employed entrepreneur, their digital nomad visas, whatever thing they want to get. But I should also tell you, if you are in the States, that every country is different. So what I'm telling you about Mauritius may not be true about Vietnam, may not be true about Ghana, may not be true about Botswana, may not be true about Madagascar or Kenya or South Africa. Every single country that you travel to is literally a country. Understand that. America is a country with 50 states, but every country that you travel to outside of America is vastly different from the others. They all have different immigration rules. They all have different residency rules. They all have different stuff, different benefits, different cons. One of the best benefits to me out here is definitely the residence pathways. That to me is one of the top benefits. One of the cons is that, well, your food may be a little pricier than like a Kenya. It'll be lower than America for sure, but pricier than if you've traveled before to like a Thailand, a Vietnam, a Kenya, a Tanzania. The food is pricier here, but it's safer too. So if safety is a big thing for you, I know for me it is. Like you will not catch me in Northern Africa. You probably won't be catching me in India. You probably won't catch me. There's a lot of places you won't catch me in South Africa. There's a lot of places that you will not catch me in, just because I really, really deeply value safety. And that has been deeply ingrained in me from my father, because he was literally just that person that just overly did safety. And so I've just picked that up, okay? But, you know, you're gonna have to research to figure out which is gonna be your best option. And when you're doing your research, the only two things that really matter, I don't want you to look at culture too much. I don't even want you to look at language too much, because language and culture cannot keep you in a country. There's two things that you need to look at: the immigration process, residency, how easy it is to obtain a temporary or permanent residency, and then safety. Those are only two things that matter. When it really comes down to it, the foundation, what can keep you in a place and what can keep you safe. Those are the only two things. Language, culture, all those things are secondary. They come later once you are more established or once you have already gotten those out the way. And that's what a lot of our clients talk about in the Mature Adult Intensive. That's what a lot of clients go through when they first looked at culture. They first look at where's everybody going without realizing there's corruption at play in African and Asian countries. There's bureaucracy at play in Europe. There's higher taxes all over the world, with the exception being Dubai, Mauritius, Seychelles, perhaps Abu Dhabi, Paraguay. Those are like the really only real exceptions to scrupulous tax rates that are just insane. But these are things that you have to consider, because as much as you're sick of America, it's going to take strategy and diligence in a team to figure out, okay, I'm sick of America, but now what? How do I make this strategy so that I can actually stay out of America for 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years? If that's what you're choosing to do, like we chose. We knew from the very beginning, once we were outside of America, we would not want to return. So we prepared along those lines that once we were outside of America, we didn't want to return, which at that time for us also included making sure our business was good. Investing in coaching programs, consulting that we had never done at a high level before, $2,500. We had never invested that high before at that time into our business, but it was a necessity. Now that we've done that, looking back 6 years ago, this business has quite literally opened residence doors, because if you're not of retirement age, and you're not somewhere where you just get a easy like Mexican temporary residence or something like that, a lot of these countries for digital nomad visas require that you have a business. And not just on paper, like you're bringing in revenue, your business is legitimate, you have a portfolio, you have a website that you can turn in, you have all these things that you can turn in, because that's actually the process we took to renew our residents recently. And they wanted to see bank statements like they always do, but something new is they wanted to see like a portfolio, not the website, the portfolio of work. And so I submit the portfolio of work. These are things that are not optional in a move abroad. Entrepreneurship is not optional anymore. You can see with the age of AI, it's just, people won't have jobs. People will be 1099 contractors working business to business. Now, I love that. It's fantastic. It opens up more opportunities for me and for our team. But a lot of people were not ready for that. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are maybe just hoping for the good old days where they could just walk into Chase Bank in America and get any type of teller, fraud analyst position, whatever position. But those days are over. Now it's going to be small business to large business, and you guys negotiate like that. I work so many of those contracts, me and my team, and it's very incredible. It's very rewarding. It's very fun because you can do it literally anywhere, especially once you have a portfolio and results, very strong results, which aren't hard to get after you take the steps to acquire them. But these are some of the hang-ups that I see that people deal with abroad. They either delay their move, because we understood in 2020 this business has to be off the ground, making at least a certain amount, $4,000 every single month, for us to want to leave, for us to feel comfortable enough to leave. So we also never tell people to just leave without a business. Unless you're a retiree, that's different. Then you can pretty much, you have that ability to take your 2,000, you get your 1,500, your 3,000, whatever it is that you get, and take that and get your retirement residence, live below your means. Fantastic. But for people who have not yet reached the age of 50, because Mauritius's retirement permit is for 50-year-olds and above, for people who have not yet reached that age, your best option is a business if you legitimately want to receive residents and not have any issues and not have to go from this country to that country and have a little bit more permanence. Because the way that we travel is we will stay 2, 3 to 4 years in a place and then travel if we so choose, which we often do choose, because we like to travel. We won't do like 30, 60, 90 days every 6 months, that kind of stuff. That doesn't work for us because we're such a large family. We have children, we homeschool, so we need a level of permanence. And you really get to experience a country. There's no way to know a country if you visit for 30 days, you visit for 90 days, then you leave. You don't really have the real experience of living there indefinitely for years and years and years. It gives you a totally different experience. This is why it's also wise to just pay attention to when you're hearing vloggers, travelers, people who are into global mobility. Pay attention to, do they have permanence in one area for a specific set of time? Is there a level of permanence where they can adequately tell you what's happening, or adequately even understand what's happening? Because it's a much different mindset when you have to pack your bags every 90 days. It's a very much different mindset. You're like a digital nomad that's just traveling. You're not really focused more long term. Maybe some of the long term implications you don't consider or you never even think about. But a lot of people choose that lifestyle because they don't look at the best residency options, right? Residency options, especially if you have a family, that's all that you care about. Especially if you're retired, that's all that you care about. It doesn't matter. Like, there are certain places that I'd love to be in, but the residency requirements are just really unlike Mauritius, unlike Spain, unlike I'm trying to think of some other ones that have decent ones. Unlike Rwanda, Rwanda has a decent one. Unlike a Botswana, Botswana has a decent one that can extend to 5 years. Unlike a Paraguay, okay. Even Thailand, a lot of those residency options make people have to leave every 6 months, which, in Asia is fine because it's cheaper. My brother spent a great amount of time in Asia and South Africa, but when he was there in both of those countries, the permanence factor wasn't there. And so he ended up back in America. This is why choosing countries not based on popularity is key. And it's a good thing when you go somewhere that a lot of people don't know about, a lot of people haven't been to. You create your own niche. You create your own portfolio in a way, because you are the first of your people to go to that territory, or in numbers of some of the first people, especially if you stay long term. That gives you a level of credibility, a level of, oh, this is permanence. I can come back here and remember. Like, if I were to want to travel, which I'm not because I'm 8 months pregnant, but if I were to want to travel to Tanzania, there are places I can go where we have property, where we have friends, where we have a network, where I can remember, we have nostalgia about the that you can just go and see your network and see your people. And one day I'll do that, but it may not be that soon because baby girl's coming, so that's going to take a while, which is another reason why we really liked Mauritius, because even when we landed in Mauritius, our youngest daughter was 5 months old. So we were like, we need a place that's just legitimate and stable. Like, that's it, legitimate and stable. Don't care about culture, don't care about language, not really into all that, but just really legitimate and stable. So that's what brought us here. And we've learned so much on this journey. I'm telling you, once you move abroad, especially if you're sick of America right now, life gets easier, provided you choose the right destination, provided you know your plan and you know your goals, specific only to you. That's a big thing as well. It's fun to go out and meet people, but you have to know your plan for your life based on how many children, how many nieces, if people are going to be coming with you, if people are not going to be coming with you, how much you value safety, how much you value being near a city or not being near a city. I am someone who actually happens to love to not be near the city. I did not live in the main city. I've lived in small suburban areas with populations of 12,000 people. And so those tend to be the places that I like to live abroad as well, places that I want to live with family in, taking things that my parents and my grandparents did well and then amplifying those things abroad and saying, okay, what I really like that they did, that we lived in the suburbs, that we didn't live in the city, that our school was just walking distance, that everybody in the neighborhood pretty much know each other. Those are things that I like. Those are things that I think are very valuable, so I take those with me to countries that we go to. My grandparents, they lived abroad and they didn't even purchase their first property until they were the age of 40. Now, the cool thing about that was the fact that they actually had a good down payment ready when they were ready to purchase that property, like 40, 50, 60% down payment, which means your descendants won't be in too much debt, which means you won't be in too much debt. So that's something that I've looked at also that has really reshaped my mind, because I'm 30 and I'm like, well, what if we just did what they did and we also travel until about 40 and then put a down payment somewhere that we like at 40 and see what the world's like. That's very advantageous. My granny, she's about 87 years old. My grandfather passed when he was 78. So they spent a lot of time in Asia. They didn't get to Africa, but they spent a lot of time raising their children in Asia, then came back to the States, purchased property. It's like geo arbitrage. It's like a hack. It's literally like a hack. You go live somewhere where the USD goes 4 times as far and save and save and save and save and save and save. Now, we have sold property, but we did not outright go ahead, although technically we did, but we did not purchase like a long-term home. We purchased more of an investment property in East Africa. But the thing with that is it's not liquid, right? And so you have to keep it there. There's building, there's fixing, there's just keep it there, put more money into it like a house would be. So that's just some of the things that I've learned on my journey, especially as a young person, that you don't have to be in a rush to just have a citizenship, to have this and that, to have these worldly ideals, when temporary residence works just fine. Permanent residence works just fine. Digital nomad residence works really, really, really fine, because they expedite that process better in places like Mauritius, like Seychelles, like Abu Dhabi. Like, I think Taiwan does one as well, but I don't know if it's as long. Like, I'm trying to think if there's any in Africa besides Mauritius and Seychelles, like truly digital nomad residencies, because I hear things about South Africa and Kenya, but they're not, I can't get like a transparent process the way I can in Seychelles or Mauritius. I can't get any real like hard transparency about the process and hard transparency about, okay, what does it require? That's also something to look for when you're going abroad, just something that's transparent, that they just write on their immigration website and make it clear, because anytime you have this like confusing thing, corruption can be involved, and it's like you don't really know what to expect. I don't like living in the unknown. I don't like moving in the unknown, especially with children, so I tend to stay away from places like that, no matter where they are. But even Rwanda, like if you were to go to their immigration website, theirs is very, very transparent. It's not a digital nomad residence, but they have consulting residence options. They have business residence options. And so that Rwanda's is actually very, very transparent as well. Okay, so this will probably be like the most transparency that you can find in Africa, like the Mauritius, Seychelles, Rwanda. Those would be like your top 3 on transparency. Then if you want to wing it, you go ahead and wing it. Have fun, but that does take a lot of people back to the States. That does put a lot of people in bad situations, because that lack of transparency, people, they'll pull the rug, they'll say, okay, we changed this, we're doing that, we don't want to do that with you, whatever, and you just want to avoid all of those shenanigans. So those are some of the cons that can come with living in the wrong country in Africa. So you gotta be aware of that. But for the most part, I mean, living abroad it's a much easier way of life than America. Much safer. If you would just take the safety index against Mauritius, the United States, Mauritius, South Africa, Mauritius, most places on earth, you would be shocked. I desire to live in those places that are like otherworldly safe, that it's like, you're like, wow, we're still on planet Earth, because that's what the times are calling for, especially with World War III coming. Food security is important. That's why islands are also fabulous. You know, so many people are like, well, islands depend on imports to an extent, but I mean, it's better than living in a desert. Quite literally, if stuff just hits the fan, it is so fruitful out here that everybody would just become a farmer. Like, I'm 100% sure everybody, you see this, every single person would just start farming. And there are parts of the island where you see that, where people will literally just farm. for much of the day. There's parts where you just look outside and they're like, oh, they're rice farming, oh, they're doing this. That's how fruitful it is. They would get wiser with their farming abilities. So I do enjoy living in areas with agricultural abundance, but you have to choose what's proper for you. And if you like this conversation, if you'd like to continue this type of conversation, check out the links in the description to become a global mobility client. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Shalom.